As someone who grew up in the States, I know very well that kids often go through a cowboy phase where they dream of getting to live in the Old West. And I'm curious, did you, having grown up in the UK, did you have a similar phase at any point in your early life?
I think, well, for me, I started riding horses when I was 5 years old. So I always had a love of horses, and the idea, being able to do a job where I could ride was unbelievable to me. So, I think there was definitely times when I was riding along that I was like, I'd seen Westerns. Like in our country, on Saturdays they always played Westerns all day on this channel I had on my TV. So I'd watch them purely for the horses, because I loved horses, loved them when they were riding. So yeah, I mean, definitely there was definitely a pinch me moment when I was in Almeria on the plains and just getting to like gallop full pelt across the horizon. I was like, yeah, I've chosen the right career path. I was very happy about that.
So what was it about that dirty black bag then, outside of your love for horses and getting to be a part of that? What was it about the show that really kind of drew you to be a part of it?
I loved the script. I thought they were full of really interesting characters. I found the characters interesting. And I also, Dominic Cooper is a very good friend of mine, and he was already attached. And it was filming in Almeria and in Spain and in Puglia in Italy and the Sahara Desert in Morocco. And I just know it felt like a great adventure that I wanted to go on with friends. And it was, and we had a lot of fun.
So speaking of Dominic, I mean, you two share a lot of screen time together in this series. And even though you had that prior relationship, I mean, what was it like, building the specific rapport for your characters off camera before bringing it into each scene?
I mean, I think we naturally have a rapport, and I think that's kind of one of the reasons we also thought it'd be fun to play these kind of sparring characters. We wind each other up a lot. I actually went to his mother's nursery school, so we've known each other. Even though he's a lot older than me. You'll hate me for saying that, but even though he's quite a bit older than me, I've known him for a long time, and we know how to like get under each other's skin and wind each other up and rag each other. So that was naturally there. For us, it was just about making sure that we tried to allow that to continue on screen and not suddenly stop that kind of energy when we were playing these other characters that weren't ourselves, I guess.
Sure, I can appreciate that. So with Billy, I mean, he has quite the emotional arc just in this first season. What was that like for you, getting to the heart of your character as it went on?
Well, for me, it obviously started with his relationship with his mother, and he's obviously very damaged. He's a very damaged individual. But for me, it started with, it was quite simple. I'm very close to my mother. I was always a bit of a mummy's boy. And I think I used to have recurring nightmares as a kid about losing my mum. It was a bit dark. So I think that was a very easy thing to connect to. And I thought it was a great place to start. And then it was trying to just get to grips with what has happened with this guy up until the point that we meet him in this story that has sort of brought him to that place. And so I just did some, searching and figured out what I thought had happened. And I think we'll probably find out more about that maybe as the series goes on. And it was just the same way I approached every character, but I thought it was a very simple, super objective he had, which is quite satisfying to play as an actor, I think.
So speaking of his objective, I mean, I love how physical his character gets, whether it be with the guns or the axes or whatever. How much of that stunt choreography were you involved with? And did you actually practice the axe throwing for the character?
Yeah, I mean, PJ Dillon had done our DP, who's amazing, and I think he shot it beautifully. It's a really stunning looking show. He'd done a lot of work on Game of Thrones, and he'd done all the original series of Vikings and stuff like that. So he had a lot of experience with axes. So along with the stunt coordinator, he was always there to make sure it felt authentic. And we were given, fake plastic guns before. It was during COVID, so we had to quarantine in our hotel for 2 weeks to start with, and there was just a lot of time and they gave me the axe, the full weight one, and there was lots of time to get used to it and get make it feel like it was something that I had a lot more skill than I actually do in doing. So, yeah.
Well, it comes across impressive on camera. I couldn't often tell whether you were actually throwing it or not. So kudos to you.
I was throwing it. But yeah. So sometimes there was only like once where I was literally throwing it right down the lens, where they were like, here's a green stick or something. Here's a, like, you're not throwing that thing at us.
Don't want to go breaking the camera or them.
More importantly, them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then speaking of action scenes, you have quite a few fun ones. My personal favorite is the bar in one of the latter episodes. But did you have any that you personally enjoyed working on the most?
That definitely was very satisfying. I really enjoyed that moment because I felt like, I don't want to give too much away, but he for the first a good portion of the beginning of the series, Red Bill is tied up, or he's not. It was fun when he actually got his hand on a gun, and he suddenly you learn very quickly what he could do with it. So no, that was a lot of fun. Although smashing a guy's head repeatedly into a table took a little consideration, because he had to walk towards me and I had to like slam it down but make it look realistic. So I think he may have had a little sore head by the end. But we did put a pad on the table. I enjoyed that. What other scenes did I enjoy? Obviously the great duel in episode 8 was, I would say that was fun. It was fun because it really was like a great homage to the spaghetti western, and you could feel that moment. That sort of the good, the bad, the ugly vibe. So that kind of felt. We were in this amazing location. It took like 4 or 5 days to shoot because there were so many different elements. But no, I quite enjoyed when I threw the axe and took out a certain character. I quite enjoyed that moment.
That was a pretty epic moment. If it's the one you're talking about, or thinking of, it was pretty epic. So speaking of spaghetti westerns, I love how this show walks this fine rope between so many different genres, be it spaghetti western, weird western, profound revenge drama. What was it like for you really navigating those various tones?
You know what, for me, it kind of wasn't my responsibility in a sense. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of, because I'm coming as a character, and I'm trying not to get too much involved in the technicality. I'm not obsessing over what the shots are. I'm trying to stay present and be with my fellow actors. So really that's the master of the mastery of the director and the director of photography, who are really, they are bringing those themes and those elements. Obviously, when you've got Aidan Gillen torturing you can't, yes, I'm aware that then maybe I'm in something that's more got a horrid slant to it, but that's fun, I'm not a huge horror movie fan myself, but I love acting in them. I think it's when characters are pushed to the limit, I find that quite I shouldn't say pleasurable, quite fun to do. When your character's really being pushed, it's you can't get more present than that, really.
Well, those scenes you have with Gillen are quite the nail biters almost. They're pretty intense. Before I let you go, when I first read about this series, I remember saying there was a 3-season plan, and so I'm curious, can you give us an update on how we're looking for the future of the show?
So what I can tell you is that the writers are writing. See, they are writing a season 2. Yeah, it's meant to be 3 seasons. They are writing a season 2. And I know that I think they're on story, and they're going, I think they need to take it to AMC for the official green light. So, but fingers crossed, because I know lots of people want to, it is left on a cliffhanger. So lots of people want to know what's happened. So I think for myself to see this character through, and for the audience who I think have very generously and faithfully followed these characters, I hope it happens, but it's looking like it's moving in the right direction, put it that way.
Well, that's great news to hear, because I did enjoy the show as well. And I will also keep my fingers crossed for you. Douglas, thank you so much for taking the time to chat. I really appreciate it.